I wanted to talk a few minutes about the FRQ for the hidden word, one of the easier FRQs that I've seen. So in the FRQ, we're given this scenario of a guessing game where we have a secret word. The user is going to enter their guess, and we need to see if, going letter by letter, we need to see if the letters are in the correct places in the word, or if the letters are in the word but not in the correct place, or if the letters in the guess are not in the word at all. And again, we're doing this letter by letter. So if a letter is in the right place in the word, we will print that letter out. When a letter is in the word but not in the right place, we will print out a plus sign in its location in the guess. And then finally, if a letter is not in the word at all, we will print out an asterisk wherever that letter was in the guess. So the user might get back a string with a letter and then a couple of pluses and an asterisk, something like that. We do not have to worry about the guess being shorter or longer than the secret word. One of the assumptions in this FRQ is that the guess will have the same number of characters as the secret word. So we're not worrying about something that's too short, too long, or nulls in any of the strings. I had said you probably needed 2 instance variables in your class. However, really you only need one. You only need an instance variable for the secret word, which you can set with the constructor. And the guess, which I had originally thought you might need an instance variable for, you really don't, because the guess gets passed as a parameter each time to the method that checks it against the secret word. So I'm going to do an additional recording with some other hints on just FRQs in general later on. But to get you started, I wanted to remind you of some of the string functions that are available. Now, we've already covered arrays and array lists, and so think of a string such as secret word, which I have here in my main. I'm just going to show you some things in main that you can then use to write your own class for the FRQ in this recording. But think of the secret word hello as being a one-dimensional array. It's really an array of characters. H is a character, E, L, L, O. And so if we think of it as an array, which is really what Java does, it thinks of strings as arrays of individual characters. It thinks of H as being at index number 0. E, the second letter, is at index number 1. L is at index number 2. The next L is at index number 3. And the last letter is at index number 4. And of course, the length or the total count of characters in this word is 5, starting going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 with the index numbers. And that is how Java envisions this string secret word. That can come in handy, right, when I want to compare two strings letter by letter. I can write a for loop and process each one as if it was an array. Now, if I want to go letter by letter, I'm going to have to use substring, which we talked about and saw way back at the beginning of the course when we talked about strings. Substring is a method of the string class. There are 2 forms of substring. One takes only one number, so substring paren 0 paren, for example, and that returns the character at that location. In this case it would be H, and it returns everything to the end of the word. So if I just put substring 0 paren 0, I would get back the whole word hello. I don't want the whole word, so that means I need to use the second form of substring, which lets me get one character from the string at a time. Now, substring can actually be used to return multiple characters. You can tell it to start at the first letter and return the next 3, and so on. But for the purposes of the FRQ, they want you to go letter by letter, one at a time. So we're going to use substring to accomplish that. And so I'm showing you some examples here to refresh your memory on substring. Remember, you take the string variable, in this case secret word, you put a dot, and then you put substring with 2 parentheses following it. And in the parentheses, you're going to put 2 numbers separated by a comma. The first number is the position of the very first letter you want to start with, or you want to grab out of the string, and it includes the letter at that location. The second letter is the ending index number, and it is exclusive. Okay, so if I want to bring back the first letter of the word secret word, which is hello, so that would be H, I would put substring 0, 1. That means start at index number 0, which is H, and grab the H into memory, and then go to the letter represented by index number 1, which is E, but stop at E and don't return E. Okay, so include the letter at index 0, but exclude, go up to the next number, the letter that's at the index of 1, but exclude it, don't return it. So that would bring me back H. That's always tricky. That doesn't mean go to the first letter and bring me back only a single character. It means go to the first letter, then keep going until you get to the letter that's at index number 1 and stop and don't include it. It's a little clearer when we say, well, let's get the second letter. You can see a little more clearly. I tell it to start at position 1, index 1, which is E, and bring back the E, grab the E out of there. Notice I'm not changing secret word at all, but I'm pulling or copying the E into memory temporarily so I can print it out in a minute. And then I'm saying 2, and that doesn't mean give me back EL. What that means is give me back E, go to the letter that is represented by index number 2, which would be the first L, and stop there and do not return that, exclude that letter. So I'm telling it where to stop, where to start, and where to stop. Include the letter or copy the letter out at the beginning index, go to the last number, the last index, but don't bring that letter back. And if I wanted to bring back this L, I would have substring paren 2, 3. So I'd be saying start at 2, go to 3, but stop at 3 and don't include it. Now that's going to come in handy, right, when I want to say compare the first letter in the secret word to the first letter in guess. Compare the second letter in secret word to the second letter in guess. I can put that in a for loop and leverage off of that. Now, how do I know when the for loop should stop? Well, when I run out of letters, right, this for loop that's going to compare the two words should stop. Well, I don't know for sure how many letters are in the secret word. I'm not told that. I just know the length of the secret word is the same as the length of the guess. So that being the case, if I want to do a for loop and I want to tell it to loop while I is less than some number, I can use I less than secret word dot length. In this case, my length is 5, and I go from 0 to 4 with H being 0 and the O being in location 4. And if I say I less than secret word dot length, that will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It will go from the H to the E to the L to the L to the O, and then it will stop appropriately. So you can use that little piece of information in your for loop. Now finally, the trickiest part is not figuring out if the correct letter is in the right place, and it's not figuring out if the letter's not in there at all if you set your if statement up correctly. The tricky part is figuring out the letter is actually in the word but not in the right location. Well, there's a function called, or a method called index of in the string class, and you should have seen that earlier in the semester, earlier in the book, but you may not remember it, and we didn't spend a lot of time on it. So index of when you put a string variable dot index of, and in the parentheses you put a particular letter, index of will return the numeric index location of where in the string that letter is. If that letter is not in the word, the string at all, that character or letter is not in the word, it will return a -1. But say that I do index of capital H, it would give me back a 0 because H is in the 0 location, index number of 0. If I put in a little e, it's going to give me back a 1 because the little e is in index 1. If I put in an O, lowercase o, it's going to give me back a 4. So that's what index of returns, but it is case sensitive. I want you to see that. So when I tell it to look for a capital E in the word hello, it brings me back a -1. But when I tell it to look for a lowercase e, it brings me back a 1, 0, 1. That is the index number of where e is in the string. So if a letter is in the string but not in the right place, I can leverage off of this index of. As long as the index of whichever letter I'm checking is not equal to -1, I know it's in the string, it's just not in the right place necessarily. So that's another little fact that can help you with your code. And so again, I was just showing here with the letter Z, -1 comes back, it's not in there. But remember, this is case sensitive. So what if somewhere, and I'm just going to type some code in here, it's not necessarily going to compile, but this is an if statement you might be able to use to help you complete your class file. What if I said something like, let me set up a for loop, and I'm going to loop from 0 to 4, 1 less than the length there. So if secret word length is 5, I'm going to loop while I is less than 5, which is perfect. I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll help me set my for loop up. And so then I can do an if statement, and it's important to do the if statement in this order. It's got to drop through in this order or you won't get the right results back. So let me check first, and most easily, if secret word dot substring, start at position I, which will be 0, and go to but exclude the letter at the very next location. So start at 0, include that letter, exclude the letter next to it. If that equals, and I don't have guess set up, assume guess is the string that holds the guess, check the letter at the same location. If they're the same, and say I have a string called hint, that's where I'm keeping my letters, my plus signs, and my asterisks. And actually I should do one thing here. I really should. It might make it a little easier if I have LTR, short for letter, equal, let me grab the letter here, right, and put it in a variable. Then I can say something like if secret word equals LTR, I'm going to run out of time here, so I'm talking a little quick. If they're equal, you have an extra paren there, then print that out, okay? Else if secret word dot index of, and then I'm going to put I, meaning grab the letter that's at I, or wait, sorry, letter, which holds my H for the first time that I go through. If that is not equal to -1, then hint is going to equal hint plus a plus sign. And I'm going to run out of time here. Else hint equals hint plus an asterisk. So if I do the if in this order, if I check and see is it the right letter in the right place, boom, print the letter out in the little string that I'm going to return, because I would return hint. print the letter out so it's printed out in the right location. But if that's not the case, check and see if it's in there. So I get back something other than a -1 from the index of, that means the letter is in there. It's just not in the right place. So print out the plus sign. Otherwise, not only is it not in the right place, or in the right place or not, it's totally not in there. So either it's in the right place